All right, hey guys, we're going to be finishing up the section of white and black women coexisting from the 1950s on up to today, okay? And needless to say, in that journey between class, race, as well as gender, there have been tensions as well as there have been some victories. And so let's just recap. Let's go first talk about during the civil rights era from the 50s and 60s. The black women's activism. Let's talk about that first. Black women like Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker, just to name a few, played pivotal roles in the civil rights movement. Their leadership often focused on racial justice, but also acknowledged the intersections between race and gender. Now let's parallel and compare that to white women's involvement. Some white women supported the civil rights movement, particularly in organizations like the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and Freedom Summer. However, their involvement was sometimes seen as overshadowing black leadership or reflecting white saviorism. And we see that quite a bit. Many well-intentioned white people have come in as if they are the great white hope, and that we poor little black people just need to be saved, and that's not always particularly the case. And we see that in history. We can even relay that to not just colonization in certain parts of Africa, but just the spread of Christianity, and how all those wretched, poor black Africans, they need our white Jesus. All right. Also, let's talk about feminism and divergence. The second wave of feminism, which emerged in the 60s, was largely led by white women and focused on issues like workplace equality, reproductive rights, and sexual freedom. Black women often, we felt excluded from that movement because, first and foremost, we didn't have the complexion for the protection. So a lot of times we felt in that time that, yes, we do want equal pay at work, and we do want reproductive rights and sexual freedoms, but we still don't want to have to drink out of a blacks only water fountain. We still don't want to be forced to sit in the back of the bus. Like we still need to fight for rights that surpass what these white women are fighting for. um, Black women often felt excluded from the movement as it failed to address the unique struggles, as I just explained, that we faced in the intersection of race and gender. So now let's talk about the 1970s through the 1980s. Intersectionality and diverging paths. Okay, again, let's talk about black feminism. Black women like Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks, let me put my glasses on, I can't even read my notes, y'all. And the Combahee River Collective articulated the concept of intersectionality, emphasizing how race, gender, and class intersect to create unique forms of oppression. Now, tensions with white feminism. White women's feminism often failed to address systemic racism, leading to friction. For instance, white feminists focus on issues like abortion access, sometimes clash with black women's priorities, such as combating forced sterilization and economic inequality. Like I said before, just because two people are of the same gender does not mean that we have the same plight. The plight of the black woman and the white woman, even though both women are totally different in society. It was then and it is today. Let's talk about workplace activism. In the workplace and activism, black and white women began to work together more frequently, but systemic racism often relegated black women to less visible roles. So yes, even though women, both white and black, would hit that glass ceiling, the white woman's head will hit it quicker than the black woman's. All right, we're moving on up from the 1990s to the 2000s. All right. Collaboration and continued challenges. First, let's talk about coalition building between black and white women. Movements like the fight for LGBTQ plus rights and reproductive justice saw some collaboration between black and white women during the 1990s and 2000s. Organizations like Sister Song brought women of all races together to address reproductive health with a racial justice lens. Let's talk about pop culture and representation in the 1990s and 2000s. In the 1990s, we saw an increase in black women's representation in media, but their portrayals often highlighted disparities in how black women and white women were viewed and treated. I mean, we still, especially in the 90s, a lot of the movies, was just like the Around the Way Girl. And then also hip hop culture had a lot to do with that, But and also you still would not see as many black leading roles, particularly female, as you would with white, you know? And so again, it makes me also think about how, um, what is her name? Felicia Rashad never won an Emmy Award for her role as Claire Huxtable. And I just think that it's no excuse for that. It just really isn't. All right, let's keep moving on. Workplace dynamics, still in the 1990s to 2000s. Workplace dynamics and diversity initiatives led to more interactions between black and white women, though racial disparities in leadership roles persisted. So yes, you may have both white and black women at the equal employee level, but as far as upper management, there was still disparities in that. And again, it is not because there were not black women who weren't educated, because records have shown and statistics show that the highest sect of educated people in this country are black women first and foremost. All right, let's keep moving now from 2010 to today. 2025. Can you believe it's 2025, y'all? All right. Reckoning with racism and new alliances. Hashtag Me Too and hashtag Black Lives Matter movements. The Me Too movement, founded by Tarana Burke, and Black Lives Matter, co-founded by 3 black women, highlighted the leadership of black women in addressing systemic injustices. White women's support, it varied, with some joining these movements and others critiqued for silence or performative allyship. You know, it's just performative. Not all. Let's talk about racial reckoning from 2010 to today. The murder of George Floyd in 2020 sparked a racial reckoning, leading many white women to engage more deeply with anti-racism work. Books like White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo and Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad became popular among white audiences seeking to understand systemic racism. And the sad thing, in my opinion, is these books should be read in the schools, just like if you're reading Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn, you should be reading this. If you're To Kill a Mockingbird, you know, it's all parts of literature, of American history and literature. But unfortunately, you know, it is what it is. Let's keep moving. Workplace equity from 2010 to today. Efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, have brought black and white women together in the workplace, but challenges remain. Black women often report feeling excluded and undervalued compared to their white counterparts. And let's talk about social media advocacy. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram have become spaces for dialogue where black and white women discuss many issues such as race, gender equality, class, white privilege, feminism, etc. However, these conversations often reveal persistent divides, as we definitely have seen. So, both groups, shared struggles, both groups face gender discrimination, okay? But the added layer of racism creates distant challenges, more challenges for black women. Allyship versus appropriation. White women's involvement in racial justice is sometimes criticized for centering their own experiences, not fully addressing systemic racism. Cultural exchange and misunderstanding. While cultural exchange has enriched in interactions, instances of cultural appropriation often strains relationships. And lastly, hope for solidarity. Younger generations increasingly emphasize intersectional feminism, creating spaces for more authentic collaboration. So just to sum all this up, the journey of black women and white women's coexistence is just ongoing, with progress marked by greater understanding and advocacy, but also challenges that are by the deep-rooted systems of oppression and systemic racism. So true solidarity, in my opinion, is going to require continuous work to bridge these divides through education, empathy, and shared action. But you cannot understand something if you run from it. You have to address it head on. All right, you all. Thank you for joining me. Hey, look, follow me on my YouTube at Soulful Sister Space in case we no longer have TikTok. Again, Soulful Sister Space. Thank you all so much. Thank you for all of y'all who've been buying me coffee because you're like, Angela, we appreciate your teaching and we just want to sow into you. So thank you, thank you. And hey, continue to buy me coffee. I love coffee. Heck, I'm drinking some right now. All right, talk to you soon. Be blessed. Bye.